pledge, and then we'll have a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you. I'd like to call the August 10th meeting of the Colorado Aeronautical Board and the Division of Aeronautics to order. Our first agenda item today is the approval of meeting minutes from June 2nd.
Motion to approve minutes.
Okay, John made the motion. Second. We got a second from Robert. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No amendments from staff, teacher.
Okay. I'm not hearing any amendments. I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Today we have Mike Sikes, Senior Manager, Southwest Airlines Business Development, to talk to us about the Southwest Airlines update.
Mr. Chair, one of the many groups I participate on here in Denver is the Metro Denver Aviation Council, also known as MDAC. It's part of the Denver Chamber of Commerce. At a meeting we had a couple of months ago, one of Mike's colleagues did a great presentation about what's going on with Southwest Airlines, what the future looks like. We thought being here at Denver would be a great opportunity to hear that presentation again. So Mike, and appreciate him graciously agreeing to give us his presentation today.
Perfect. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. On behalf of Southwest Airlines, it's my pleasure to be here to talk to you about our air service in the state of Colorado, specifically the Denver marketplace. We definitely want to be a good partner with our community, and we realize we have a big impact on the organization and the flights that we have and the fuel taxes that we generate. So I'm excited to share a pretty good story about our growth in Denver. Not only looking backwards, but looking forward as well. So, quick chart here. This is just looking at passenger levels per day over the past 5 years. One thing that's really stuck out for us is the rate in which the Denver marketplace has responded to our levels of service here as we've grown. So just in 5 years, we went from 30%, as you can see in the far left, the blue box is our piece of the total O&D traffic to and from Denver, up to 37%. So in the total market in the past 5 years has grown 16%. Over 80% of that has been attributable to Southwest. So what really I think is unique and stands out at this point in time in the aviation sector in Denver in commercial service is really a good balance with the type of carriers that you have here. So United is a very big carrier here, almost double the flight levels that we have. We're here at almost 200 trips a day. Frontiers here, a downscale version of what they used to be. But everybody serves different purposes, and I think this creates a good environment for all three of us to have a healthy future. So you can see here, this is just total seats in the market. And going back to this, O&D's passengers have grown 16%. The air service or the seats in the marketplace has only grown by about 6%. So the marketplace itself is actually outpacing the investment that's been being put into the market. So that just leads you to believe, hey, in the future, there's a lot more opportunity for additional air service. You can see we're only 30% of the seats, but we're 37% of the market. So one thing I like to explain is Southwest particularly has a focus on nonstop, carrying passengers nonstop. So from an origin to a destination. We're United, who has a big operation here as well. They're really focused on getting people who can make over Denver from the West Coast to the East Coast or vice versa. So it provides a really good operation for them, but they're thinking more of a countrywide breadth of service, connecting and facilitating through Denver, where we're down looking at the composition of what's on the plane. So how are we different? Just playing out this difference a little bit. You can see Southwest, on average, we fly about 149 seats per flight into the market. About 85 of that is local customers. Those are people flying to Denver or from Denver. 47 of them are those that are flying over Denver as a connection point, and 17 of our seats on average row. If you look at United, you can see their local composition is much lower, 27 per trip. They have 59 again, a big meaningful amount of traffic flowing over Denver, about 13 seats are open. They fly smaller aircraft, and that's why you see a much larger departure count from them. We have bigger planes, so we don't need to fly as many departures. In general, we run in the 80% load factor range, so that's how full the aircraft is. United's about the same. Frontier runs a bit higher than that. So looking at future growth and thinking about what opportunity exists, high 80% for a year-round average is a really high amount. So there's a lot of opportunity for future growth for all carriers in the marketplace. So just a little bit about the history of our growth in Denver. You can see back to 2006, starting off kind of with near 24 departures. Every year we've put substantial investment into the marketplace. You can even see from 2015 to 2016, we've added 13 frequencies compared to the prior year. Those are pretty big investments. Flexibility, so adding those additional frequencies in those markets really allows us to become more attractive to business travelers. Something we like to talk about is at Southwest. Historically, you may have heard us talk about the Southwest effect. We enter a market and we lower prices and the market grows. Some people like to say that's a thing in the past for Southwest, but we think that's still very much alive and well. So we have a great example, Dallas. We actually just started serving in October of 2014. We were previously restricted from flying that route. So we entered the market with 3 daily trips, and about a year and a half, we're up to 7 daily trips. You look at the chart there on the left side is the stats before Southwest served the market. So there are about 20 departures, 2,000 seats. The key thing here is the fare was about $118. And there's about 1,400 passengers flying it every day. Fast forward to today, the most recent public data we have available, year ended first quarter 2016, the market grew 23% to 1,700 passengers per day, and that fare dropped down 16% to $99. So we're very committed to continuing to make air service convenient as well as cheap for our customers with the service that we have. That's a big part of what's really fueling the growth that we have in the market. Then we have just a couple stats. This is a little bit stale. I need to get our finance guys to update this, but our economic impact on the community is something that we're very proud of. So things you might not know, just our air service to the marketplace, we calculate about a $6 billion economic impact on the Denver area. We contribute about $3 billion to the GDP for Denver specifically. We've aided in the creation of 36,000 jobs. Our company specifically, we're close to about 3,000 employees here. So you have frontline employees doing customer service, working the ramp, loading bags. We have a flight crew base here. We have a flight attendant crew base here. So we have high-paying jobs. We've got low-paying jobs as well. We have a broad offering to the community in terms of the jobs that we offer. We pay very competitive salaries. We have excellent benefits for our employees. So we're definitely contributing quite a bit. On the salary, wages, and benefits side, just our employees alone are getting paid $275 million in salaries. So great impact to the local economy. Future investments, we're looking at potentially opening a maintenance space here, which will bring additional revenues to the airport as well as additional high-paying jobs for That's a high-level growth story for Southwest. Again, I'll reiterate, just continued growth and commitment over time. We're trying to focus on feeding the local economy by flying people nonstop to their destinations. We have slow and steady growth in the international space. We're really committed to Denver. It's become one of our 5 largest airports in our whole system. And it's really a shining star for our world. So I'll open it up for Q&A. Feel free to throw whatever questions you have my way.
Yeah, Mike, great presentation. Do you guys service any of the regional airports in Colorado besides just,
Yeah, so right now, Denver is our main daily commercial service airport. We do offer charters. We do have charter service that does service some of the other airports, but those are more kind of one-off based on third parties wanting to book the whole plane. So for instance, we fly to Haven, to Vail, people book charters up there. Doing some evaluation and understanding the economics of flying seasonal service to some of the ski towns that permit our aircraft type. So not there yet, but looking at what those opportunities might be.
thank you.
Mike, how do you measure your economic impact?
That's a great question. My finance team does that. I'm less versed in that, but I'd be more than happy to give you my card and follow up on that question.
Any other comments from the board?
Good presentation, thank you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Sure. Perfect. Okay, we'll move on to board member reports. Joe, are you ready?
I can be, Mr. Chairman. I think the only thing that I have to mention is the Colorado Space Business Roundtable is doing their aerospace business development road trips. And the dates are August 9th through September 2nd, so the last week of this month that crosses into September. Going to Grand Junction, Natarita, Durango, and Montrose. The schedule is close to being finalized, but I believe we have stops at airports and at all of those, each of those locations, as well as meeting with potential suppliers, subcontractors, or in some cases existing suppliers and subcontractors who want to expand or make additional contacts with other aerospace companies. There is no charge to participate or attend. If anybody is interested in going to any of these or joining for any or all, you're welcome to contact me. I can get you the information, or if you also can find it on the Colorado Space Business Roundtable's website. I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Keith?
No report. I'm sorry I missed last month's, 2 months ago now, June's meeting. That was the day of the Air Force Academy's graduation. I'm proud to report that you've got 840 new second lieutenants in the United States Air Force protecting the country from all enemies.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of things to report. We are 89 days, 11 hours, 41 minutes, and 11 seconds away from the election, but who's counting? It does mean a lot of VIPs coming through the airport, and including 2 today, so we're staying very busy with Capitol Police and Secret Service, etc., etc. August 16th, 17th, and 19th, from 8 p.m. till 11 p.m., we will actually be conducting what at 139 airports is referred to as the triannual, but we'll actually be running 3 live fire drills with casualties, first responders, police, fire, helicopters, etc. So that's 3 days in a back-to-back, except for the 19th. On August 21st through the 23rd, the AAAE is hosting Long Sentinel Ever General Aviation Conference right here in Denver. August 22nd through 25th, Casey Yanamura, who is the regional administrator for the Rocky Mountain region, will be hosting and writing up the environmental impact process, or the EA, for the Denver Metroplex. Should be a very interesting presentation. It will be the first rollout publicly of the proposed new routes for the Metroplex airspace redesign. August 22nd, we'll be starting our 35-day shutdown of our main runway to do a complete rehab on it. August 27th, we've got the Morgan Adams Foundation, which will, it's a fundraiser for pediatric oncology research, but it will include a private 40-minute, we refer to it as an aerial demonstration. And then, as the core liaison for the board with CAOA, I saw Steve Lee here earlier. I don't think, oh, there he is. So he just asked me to report that CAOA conference coming up. I think what, early June, I believe in Glenwood Springs. And when the announcement comes out, to make sure that you get your room rates early, because the hotel will fill up very quickly. A lot of hotels in the nearby area, but they get to be a lot more expensive than the block rate. So the other thing that you mentioned, so I wanted me to express appreciation for Dave Lane reaching out to the CAOA and making sure that CAOA is informed on everything that's going on. So thank you. Steve, I don't know if you had anything to add?
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Don? Leo, do you have anything you want to?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Ann?
Sure. Last weekend wrapped up Oshkosh, or EAA Air Adventure. And a number of pilots out of Colorado flew safely back and forth and reported that it was a great event. They had a great time. This weekend, the CAA is putting on their mountain flying course. And it's a great course. It also gets a great acclaim out at Oshkosh as well. As Robert announced, the Morgan Adams event is coming up on the 27th. It's a great event. A lot of vintage planes are there. I believe there's over 40 of them scheduled this year, as well as vintage cars, and it's a great fundraiser for pediatric cancer. Also, that same time frame, Fifi will be up at Jeffco, the B-17. The CPA is putting on a drone expo on September 10th up at Jeffco. I'm sorry, Rocky Mountain Metro. I will never get that right. At Rocky Mountain Metro on 910, and they're looking for support for both presenters and people to volunteer to help with that. Talk with Bill Cotton here. And then you'll hear more about this a little bit later, but the splash in, the first ever seaplane splash in Colorado down at Lake Dolores was held very successful with the planes, and I'm sure that Ray will update us on that. I'd also like to point out that there's a new exhibit over at Wings Over the Rockies, and it slipped my mind what it is, but it's a life-size bronze of World War II fighter pilots getting ready, preparing for their launch into their last mission. So if you get a chance to go see that, it's really something else, so we'll see that at Wings Over the Rockies.
Just a couple things I wanted to offer congratulations to Sean, his second anniversary.
Not with the physician, with his wife. Clarify that correctly.
That was a Facebook deal.
Wondering about that.
All right, so I had an opportunity to work with David Ulane and Bill Payne, and we were invited to give a presentation at the Colorado Municipal League Conference that was scheduled about the middle of June in Vail. And we had that scheduled for an hour, or they scheduled us for an hour. It was a panel discussion. I moderated it, and these guys did a great job of telling our story. Obviously, it's pretty hard to talk to a group of individuals. I think we had about 50 in that room, and tell aviation in an hour. You can go on and on, especially for those of us that are connected and passionate about it. But I just got this from CML yesterday, and this is what they had to say. It's real short. It said, on behalf of the Colorado Municipal League's executive board and staff, I would like to sincerely thank you for your time in preparing and presenting at our annual conference in Vail this past June. This year we had over 1,200 people attending sessions, networking and sharing valuable resources. The program was a great success due in part to your contribution. We heard from folks on site that had attended your session who stated that the information you provided them was very valuable. So again, thank you. And we'll find a survey response from your session. We hope you found the CML conference to be terrific personal experience, and I wish you a great summer. So one of the survey comments that came back was, very informative presentation, was well done by all speakers. I thought the speakers were very well informed and passionate. Hope to continue the aviation discussion more in the future. So I think that's pretty much an invitation for us to come back. So great job, you guys. It was nice teaming up with you. Let's see. Now we're in our 25 years, right, of celebration. And so what? Are we doing anything more with that? I know we had a big presentation at the CAOA meeting down in Durango. And where's that at?
That was about it.
That was about it. Okay.
I think that was really sort of the celebration.
Highlight of it.
Chair.
Okay.
If you would like to talk about something else.
No, I just think it's great that we continue to share that with folks. Club 20 having one of their annual meetings down in Two Rivers Convention in Grand Junction. That's on September 9th and 10th. First day is executive board meeting and general board meeting. That's representing 22 counties, the voice of the Western Slope on Saturday. And this happens every year. There's election year. Club 20 hosts debates at the state and county level. So I don't know if any of you can attend that, but I'll tell you what, it's worth your while. It might change your opinion on who you want to vote for. Then here, about 2.5–3 months ago, I inherited about 25 model airplanes from Dean Smith, who was the second in charge at Hayden Regional Airport under Dave Rubin. And so Dean asked me if I wanted them, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. So I said, well, yeah, I guess if you don't want them. So he said, well, they're all boxed up at one of the storage sheds up at the regional airport. So I drove up there, and I said, well, Dean, can I get all these in my car? I need a passenger. He said, oh, yeah. He said, no problem. I got up there, and there was 5 boxes of model airplanes. That was huge. So we were able to capture a couple of them, and then had to make another trip. But I spread them out in the community, and I brought some here. In fact, Dave has one, and Jeff has one. Jeff might have 2 now. I don't know how that worked. Somebody was kind of whining. I don't know how that. But anyways, and I brought a few more desktop ones, and I have another one here that I'm going to hand out later. I hope. My intention was to get everybody on the board of model airplane, and Dean Smith was very passionate about aviation and served in the military for many years. So he just gave them up, and I was the one that got them, and I just want to make sure they go to a good home. Do we have any? That's all I have. So is there any public comments at this time? You know, this won't take, but go ahead. Jason.
I'm Jason LeCombe from the Northern Colorado Regional Airport, formerly known as the Fort Collins Loveland Airport. For those of you that don't know, we changed our name here just a couple months ago. Just wanted to say 3 quick things real quick if I could. The first one is our support of William E. Payne and Associates contract that you'll be considering today. Obviously, blood space and remote tower is something that's very critical to our airport for safety and for our economic impact. We have provided some information in your packet to support that, so we hope that you're able to take a good look at that and do so favorably. Also, I want to express our appreciation for the state's surplus program. We were a participant in that. We're able to acquire a new tractor, a used tractor from the surplus pool that'll save our airport about $80,000 in future expense to be able to use equipment from the surplus program that's not quite used up. And also our support for TK. TK has been instrumental in a lot of programs that we use. I use WIMS every day, so I know, and we just wanted to publicly appreciate, give our appreciation for TK's work.
So you're opposing accepting his resignation?
Well, I'll take some of the cake.
So this is kind of out of the norm. I know we have a full agenda, but this will only take just a few minutes. And what I'd like to do is, since we have a very low turnout in the public, I just ask we start at the back there, stand up, state your name, which airport or part of aviation you're affiliated with.
Steve Lee, Denver International Airport Operations, and also president of Colorado Airport Operators Association. On behalf of Denver International Airport, I'd like to say thanks for coming today and holding a meeting here.
Perfect.
Welcome. And CAOA, we've already stated our comments.
All right, thanks.
Kenny Mantha, I'm with Jacobs Engineering. I also have a little bit of a pass on being on the serving on the aeronautical board.
I was going to say, this guy looked familiar. Can't picture him, but I know I've seen him someplace before.
I'm Bob Loney, representing myself, but I have served in the aviation industry for a while, so I'm here to celebrate TK's service to the Aeronautics Division.
Perfect, thank you, sir.
John Bauer, I'm the manager of the FAA's Denver Airports District Office.
Awesome.
Bill Payne with the Payne Associates.
Yes, sir.
John Sweeney with the Airport District Office. I'm a community planner.
Okay, we already did Jason's guy.
I'm Steve Wolf. I'm president of the FNL Pilots Association and also the AOPA Support Network volunteer for FNL.
Okay.
Bill Totten, the vice president of Colorado Pilots Association, Airport Support Network for AOPA at Front Range, and Colorado Pilots Association. What to say? Area representative.
Thank you, Bill.
Ray Hawkins, representing Seaplane Pilots Association.
Thank you. And then I think we have about 4 or 5 people in the back. Let's start with the ladies in the back.
Peggy Cobalt, the Applied Data Technology. Pleasure of working with TK for over 20 years, so I had to be here today.
Perfect.
Barry Trushke, also with Applied Data Technology. I work with the Aeronautics Division to perform the payment condition inspections.
All right.
Behind the pillar here, Jim Fritz, former chairman of the board, here for today.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Chris Schaefer, I'm the assistant manager with the FAA's Airports District Office.
All right.
I'm Brian Johnson, Rocky Mountain Metro Airport, and a hearty congratulations from our airport staff to TK. Our staff have known you over the years. I've barely gotten to know you, but you've done a great job, and hats off to you and your family.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you guys all for coming. We appreciate it. So we'll move on to director's report. Dave.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll just hit on a couple of highlights. I was kind of surprised Dr. Forrest was remiss in mentioning that next Friday is the new aerospace student orientation in Metro State.
It's because I knew you were going to bring it up.
All right, thank you. And once again, Sean and I will be out at that event. We appreciate Metro's engagement in the division. That's a great opportunity for Sean and I to participate and most importantly, reach out to over 100 new aerospace students about our internship program that we fund at airports like Ryan's over here. So thank you for that invitation. Appreciate that. Again, as Robert spoke about briefly, AAAE is holding their General Aviation Airport Issues Conference here in Denver week after next, and I have the privilege on the opening session in the morning, Monday morning, of participating on a panel with several other folks from across the country on the state of general aviation. So, great opportunity for us to participate in that conference because it's right here in town, and I know Robert's got some key roles in that conference as well. I appreciate Centennial sponsorship of that. Lastly, probably the most important thing is the National Association of Aviation Officials, or NASAO, which is the association for myself and my 49 counterparts of staffs across the country. We have our annual conference September 11th and 13th down in San Antonio. I will be down there for that, participating in a couple of panels on our Blues program and UAS and General Aviation Airport Security. So appreciate the board's support of all of our engagement in those kinds of activities.
Perfect. Any questions for Dave? I'll just say, you know, Dave, you got a busy schedule for the next month, and I know that this board appreciates your interaction throughout the state of Colorado and outside the state, and you know, ultimately you're the face of aviation in Colorado, and we really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you.
Appreciate the support. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to Paragon Audit Progress Report. Dave?
Mr. Chair, I'll keep it really brief because we'll get into this in a lot of detail at our September meeting. But as you'll recall, last September the board accepted the Paragon External Audit Report, which was a result of the Memorandum of Understanding and the State Controller's loan that we accepted early last year. Really briefly, I'm pleased to report that since June we have closed out 4 more recommendations of the 23 that we accepted back in September. We're down to 2 that we'll take to the end of the year to get the information we need to close out, but thanks to staff and a lot of assistance with our folks down at CDOT headquarters. I don't see Mike Chalice here. I thought he was going to be here, but we have made fantastic progress on addressing all of those audit recommendations, and we'll get into those on a lot more detail. But again, 21 of 23 are now complete and closed out.
That's just awesome. How often do we do the audit, Dave?
Well, that was kind of a one-off. That was done as a result of the MOU and financial circumstances
Gotcha.
that the division found themselves in. So let's hope we don't have to repeat any of those anytime soon. That's my goal.
This has been a heck of a project, but just goes to show you how long something like this takes to implement once it is audited. So, great job. Any comments from the board? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll move on to financial update. Dan Bryce.
I'll just kick it off, Mr. Chair, real briefly. I think everybody's aware of the fact that our budget year runs from July 1 to June 30, and this was really the first year that we had to really exercise the new financial forecasting tools and models and processes and procedures that we've been working on so hard to improve. And as Bryce will talk a little bit more about, I think we did a pretty good job. We had forecasted throughout the year, adjusted our forecast, that we would probably have about $16.5 million in total revenue at the end of FY16, which ended June 30. We actually finished the year with about $16.8 million in revenue. So I think that shows that we're starting to pay very close attention to that. Bryce has done a fantastic job working with the Division of Admin and Finance at CDOT to continue to refine those practices and make sure you all and our constituents have the information that we have a financial picture of the board. So that's just a matter of introduction. I'll turn it over to Bryce. I think everybody here hopefully has met Bryce Shuck. He's our new division manager. He's been here, business manager. He's been here since March. He's been doing a fantastic job for us, and the good news is his sense of humor fits right in with our crew. So we appreciate that, Bryce. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Chairman Beck. Good afternoon to the members of the Aeronautical Board. Presenting information from the financial dashboard report in your packet, going through each section, and let me know if you have any questions along the way. Please note, as Dave mentioned, these are the financial information for the aviation division up through the end of June 2016, which are the preliminary year-end numbers. Please note, period 13 has not closed for the state, so there may be adjustments for the year-end numbers, which will be communicated at the next meeting. We're going to skip forward to slide B here for you all. We've got it broken down in your packet. We're going to lump together this on the next slide, but we've got just some updated information. As you all know, the Treasury agreement expires April 1st, 2020. We have upped our forecast. We should be back into the recovery zone in December of 2018 currently, based on the prices of oil and jet fuel moving forward. And our negative trend, as you can see, is kind of flatlined there at the bottom. It's projected to start increasing and working its way back up beginning June of 2017, so a year from now. But the dollar value from now till then is relatively static, so it could be any month could kind of be the bottom point, I guess. Our cap is remaining $150,000 projected out for the CDAG awards through FY17 and through 2020. And like I said on the slide, and this here is what you'll see on the bottom of your slide in your packet. This just outlines how we are projecting the fuel prices out using the EIA short-term data that includes long-term forecast. So we've taken the jet fuel price per gallon as projected out and converted that to oil, which is more familiar with before. So that should give you a little bit more of an understanding what the projections are for the long-term numbers. We update those every month. Just wanted to highlight that for you and have it slide 8. The fund had a negative balance of minus $4.508 million as compared to the forecast of negative 4.2. As it relates to the loan status, the June State Treasury interest report shows an annualized interest rate of 0.93%, with a monthly interest charge of approximately $3,000, and that was on an average daily balance of minus $3.921 million. We had a lot of things on the graph there. This is a bit of a spike there. That's just due to the time of this payments and slide C. Blue bars represent sales tax revenues to the division. Red bars represent the refunds to the year. June was $419,000 in sales tax revenues received, and net refunds processed for June was $1.298 million. The graphs closely correlate to the month before when it comes to the refund of revenue amounts, as we discussed many times division, represents the refunds to the airports. Revenues in June were $76,467, and the refunds processed totaled $41,359. Happy to report that we have caught and processed all previous errors with the airports. There's still a small quantity of work items we're following, and not as a result of the Airlines division resolved. Slide E, cumulative revenues received for the year 2016. Year-to-date amount was $16.8 million against our forecast of $16.7 million. Our forecast was the actuals, which we had last updated in March. FY16 revenues, as compared to the initial FY16 budget of $30 million, was short by $13.2 million for an annual percentage of 56% of the budget, which was expected due to declining oil prices and revision of the model taking place throughout the year. What this shows through various financial controls and discussions, revision of much more depth of estimated results and Slide F, the green bars represents our actual cumulative admin expenditures for the year. In June, the division's admin expense was $87,128, bringing the total for the year up to $993,264. This is an approved budget, which is the section there. And thanks to concentrated and ongoing effort, the division is able to come well under its expectations for the year. That's all I've got.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, if I might, I know at the June meeting, Joe brought up a comment about some different scenario-based planning on what the prices of oil, and how the division would respond to that. We have a great package of information we'll share with you at our workshop in September on different scenarios and how we react based on what the price of oil would do. So we'll do that in September. Certainly, make some good ideas on how we can have some contingency planning if oil doesn't do what we expect it to do. How we can have some good stuff that in the workshop in September.
All right, thank you. Grant administrative update. No, let's see. Yeah, we did that. All right. Well, that's where we're at. Next.
Reminder to people that might not know, there are administrative changes to grants that we don't have to bring to the board or internships. The board gives us a certain amount of money to be able to do internships with airports, and we're working off of funds that were approved by the board on May 19, 2015 at this point to give us not to exceed $150,000. So internships are brought to you. The other is administrative changes to grants that do not change the scope or the amount of money. And so we bring them to the board for your information. We have two new internship requests, one from Eagle County and one from Durango. Both of those internship requests are for 6 months, which is different than we've done in the past. There's nothing in the regulations or in the rules that we've written that preclude that, and so we think it's worth giving it a try. They have a syllabus that makes sense. We like the idea of it, and if it actually makes the airports supported before, then it may very well be able to reach more people. So those two have been approved. After contracting both the Eagle and Durango, the amount granted for FY16 internship programs is $104,000. So we're still under the $150,000 not to exceed price limit that the board set. And finally, there is a request for administrative change for Spanish Peaks Airport. They had originally in 2014 they had approved and contracted for a grant with 5 elements in it. Those 5 elements requesting that with some of the money remaining in the completed portion, that we move $11,111 over to the FA match project. And we think it's a good thing to do to make that project whole. And again, it doesn't change the scope. It doesn't change the amount of money that we're giving the airport. So unless there's any questions, that's all I need to say.
Good job, thank you. Okay, thanks, DK. We'll move on to Denver surplus sale recap. Caitlin.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We had another successful surplus sale. The surplus sale was actually just last Wednesday. For them. We had 14 airports that RSVP'd for the sale. 14 of them showed up and 11 of them left with equipment. By far the most popular item were the 3 tractors, which Jason was lucky enough to get. The first 4 slots of the sale, all 3 tractors were gone. So that was definitely the reason for a lot of them to come. 2 airports that had come wanted the tractors but didn't draw a high enough pick, and so they left without them, and everyone was so happy. It was still worth their trip to come up just for the chance of getting one of the pieces of equipment. The gentlemen here at Denver that we work with have been wonderful. They have made this easier and easier for us every year, and they say the same thing back our direction, so it's definitely been mutually beneficial. The amount that was approved was $250,000. The amount that the state will be paying is $153,675. So we're well below our not to exceed of $250,000. We will have another sale next year. They're expecting bigger equipment and possibly some more of it. So I'm expecting that budget request next year to be similar, and hopefully we'll spend a little bit more of it. Any questions?
That's a great program. I think that benefits the whole industry in the state of Colorado, and you guys are taking advantage of it, so I think it's great.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I have to say, I have to give a shout out to our staff. I didn't have a chance last year to attend the sale at a conflict, but I actually went out this time and watched it work. And I'll tell you what, watching Caitlin, Todd, and Scott make that sale happen, and you think they've been doing it for 1,000 years. They have it down pat, everybody's happy, it's well oiled. And not only does everybody know the piece of equipment they get, they actually walk away in that parking lot with their grant in hand. They print those right there. I mean, it is the most amazingly efficient group of people I've ever seen. So thank you to Caitlin and the whole team making that happen. I wish Steve wouldn't have left, because Steve has been with the city and county for almost 25 years, I think. Steve was really the guy that has pulled a lot of weight within Denver International to make this auction happen and still have good support. So if you ever see Steve, let's come back in and make sure to thank him, because he's a real key part of making that auction process. Again, thanks to staff, and thanks to Denver for doing it.
Let's give him a round of applause. Great. I did have one question, Dave, maybe GK can answer this. When we do grants of any nature, whether it be for CIP or whether it be for an intern program, does the intern program, is it identified on WIMS?
Absolutely.
Okay. I thought it was, but I didn't know.
We've got to the point where everything that we do is on them, we do grants, but we're adding in every program that we have. Todd just finished a section on crack fill program, so everything that we actually spend money on, all the programs are going in WIMS. So yes.
All right, great. Okay, move on to, speaking of WIMS, policy. Dave.
Great segue, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Just by matter of background, you'll recall that as part of the Paragon audit back in September, one of the findings, number 15, specifically related to the division's previous efforts to share our web-based information management system, or WIMS, with other states, and that the division had gotten a little far down that path without securing your approval and maybe some of the other approvals that were necessary to have to do that. So we took kind of a from-scratch approach as a result of that audit finding. It wasn't one of our first priorities, but we have now gotten back around to it. And one of the things that we've done is with WIMS, it's pretty interesting. WIMS is not our program. WIMS is a customization that we have of a program called Salesforce, which is very unique. And I'm sure your sales world, you know all about Salesforce. It's a customer resource management software that we have adapted for our use of the division. And it's a pretty ubiquitous platform for a lot of different industries and a lot of different uses. And one of the things that we've learned with our counterparts around the state, or the country rather, they do a lot of things to do. They give grants, they manage programs. So these WIMS, they would love to leverage what we've done with WIMS to go out and get sales force on their own, and then kind of take what we've learned and expand on that for their own use. And we've gone and asked the Governor's Office of Information Technology, which is the primary group that's responsible within the state, not just for CDOT, but for every other state to oversee software. And hey, are you willing to do this with us? Are we legally allowed to do it with us? And the long story short, as you can see in your memo, is that we have now gotten approval from the Office of Information Technology that we are legally allowed to share WIMS. We're not sharing a software license. We're not sharing any data. We are not sharing anything that's proprietary. We're just sharing our customization of a software piece with somebody else. We still have to go out and buy a license for Salesforce, hire their own developer to adapt everything to their program. And we think that would be pretty cool for a couple of reasons. One is that, you know, the environment of state aeronautics agencies across the country is one of a lot of collaboration. We're all always with each other. TK knows. It seems like every couple of days we get a survey question or some kind of inquiry or some kind of request for help or information from some of our peers around the country, because we all face, just like airports, we all face the same challenges. And if we were able to share WIMS and help make other state aviation agencies as effective as we are and give them a head start, I think, one, that shows that we're leaders, that we're still continuing to lead throughout the state. It wouldn't cost us anything to do that. The most important thing is we get a little quid pro quo, because you never know, and we might have to go back to another state and say, wow, you have an iPad app for your airport directory? Well, Sean and I have been talking about an iPad app. Are you willing to share that app with us? We did that. So there's kind of this, you know, camaraderie and this really great network of collaboration between aeronautics agencies, and we'd really like to be a part of that. So what we're here to ask you today is for the CAB's blessing to continue to work with OIT on sharing at no cost to the division our WIMS customization with other states that they would then use to adapt to their programs and make their divisions and systems great as well. The biggest part of that, though, I think, is really cool. A lot of people are interested in WIMS as well. Our sustainability program, which you know is now part of WIMS. Airports go into WIMS. They do that. We developed that with a $500,000 grant, thanks to John and his team at the FAA. And my conversations with some folks at the FAA have said, wow, we'd rather have you guys share that component with other states than us give 40 other states $500,000 to do the same thing we just did for you. So I think the FAA is certainly supportive of us sharing that part of WIMS, the sustainability piece, and I think John and you guys are kind of encouraged to do that on the spot.
We absolutely are encouraging the state to share that research. It saves a ton of AIP funds, and that comes directly back to us through other grants for airports, for payments and such. So we would really like to see those information shared with the other states. Do the math quickly, 49 times $500,000, and I don't know how that works. Encourage the state to consider sharing that program with all other states. We've actually got a few lined up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dave. Any comments?
I presume the $24 million will come back to Colorado.
Mr. Chairman, if you would entertain a motion, I would move that we approve sharing with the other states.
Okay, we have a motion. Second. And a second to approve sharing WIMS with the other states at no cost to the state of Colorado or the Division of Aeronautics. So is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll work with Leo and the Office of Information Technology to make that happen. We'll keep everybody, including the interns. Good. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. That'll be a great thing for us to be able to share at the NUSAO conference I'll go to in September. There'll be a lot of states very excited to hear that you've all agreed to do that. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Leo, did you have any comments?
No, I just wanted to say that this was vetted with my office prior to the board meeting today, and it was very clear that since no proprietary or confidential information or deliberative process was involved, that our office had no problem with this.
one question. What kind of time commitment is that for your staff, and will there be a tipping point where that is maybe something we have to reconsider too much? I don't know if it's just a phone call or...
From our staff's perspective, it will really be virtually none, because the way this will work is actually OIT will package WIMs on either a floppy drive or a USB stick or some kind of other mechanism, or hand that out, and then the state just takes that and runs with it. So there may be a small fee that the receiving state would have to pay for OIT if there's a direct cost to their time to do that. But from our standpoint, unlike the first arrangement, we won't be offering support. We might be there to answer a couple of questions. I mean, we're not like that, but we won't be providing hours and hours of support. That will basically be like, here you go, do with it what you can, and that's me. So.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Can we get one of those floppy drives?
Seeing if you guys are paying attention. It's on an 8-inch floppy drive.
Robert? Yeah, I just want to express our gratitude to the FAA for making the funds available for an innovative program like this to take shape in the first place. Having innovation grants coming through from the FAA is pretty unusual. So just by way of this board, I want to thank them.
Anything else? All right. Thank you for that update. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to the WEPA contract. Dave,
Mr. Chair, I got a reason. If it makes sense to the rest of the board, would it be possible to get the remote tower blended airspace project update first prior to talking about an extension of the contract?
Staff has no issue with you. Yep. Leave those back. Sure.
So currently, I think one of the key things we've been working on, in addition to the CONOPS and some of the technical documents, which I'm not going to bore you with, would be evaluation of a...
Okay, no, hold on just a second here. We're going to get a microphone. It's kind of hard to hear you over here.
As I said, we decided working on the technical documents as well as the chain. We've been evaluating unsolicited proposals into by Callus Coalition. That evaluation has concluded, and the FAA has elected not to move forward with that unsolicited proposal. I'm going to get into some of the details here because some of this to the vendor. Also, I have been in discussions with several other vendors that have similar technologies both here and in Europe to be able to backfill the program, which is now, because of this time of this trend, looking at the unsolicited proposal, we're extremely slick. I believe that we'll be able to make that up as soon as we can get a vendor selection. FAA is the one that's doing the selection of the project. FAA has decided to do an industry day on September 22nd. September 22nd is when it's currently scheduled. Industry day means they say come on from all to play their technologies and be considered. And FAA at this point wants to ask people to donate their technologies. I would not recommend you to get involved in that particular, or attend it obviously, but get involved in that cattle call because it would be it would just slow us down and create some fairly major schedule conflicts. That's high level overview of what we're doing with the question of
I guess I'll be the lone person. I'm looking at this report. The update. And I see a lot of under development, no activity, under review, under development, developed concept, no significant activity. Just a lot of, doesn't seem like a whole lot going on in that respect. I'm just, again, looking at the report, which is why I wanted kind of an update before we start talking about the contract, because that's going to be influential in my vote with respect to the contract.
So here's the point.
Okay.
I don't run the board.
Gotcha. FAA.
It's an FAA board.
Right.
So I am simply there as a representative of the Airlines division in the state of Colorado. I can drive and I can quote, and I do have some abilities to influence things. But all of the activities that go on are strictly run by the next gen program. So what's happening is the early development part. There are some of those items in there related to, for example, the common use document. The common use document is constantly being evaluated by the various lines of business in the FAA. Same thing with the requirements document. The requirements document is a fairly volatile document at this point because of the technologies that we're looking at potentially using. So the lines of business that are involved, AOB safety, aviation safety, they have a big input to that, requirements and planning in the FAA. So I'm involved in those meetings, the non-ops meetings, and the teleconferences, but I don't drive the boat.
Gotcha.
If I did, we would have been somewhere else.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have at this point? Don, do you want to weigh in on that?
Go back just for me to what you said about the industry day on 9/22. If the FAA doesn't find someone to donate, what's the other option?
Well, that's the other option is that you have to understand that we're the only group that has money. Okay, the FAA is not going to fund any position in these projects. They're going to ask various vendors around the country to come in and potentially give their technology to be tested. But the caveat is they have to go out and get an airport or a state or a community to fund their efforts. And I will tell you that's not the airports that don't qualify or be eligible for a low-power solution are not going to have that kind of money to do a development. They're not going to want to. Go to Jason here. Jason, we got an idea. It's a really neat idea. It's going to be like a science project, and would you fund it? Airports can't fund it there. We have some severe budget problems throughout the industry. So, but the industry day is the administrator, Michael Rex, has said that remote towers is one of his major projects, one of the major things he does. Okay, and that is because it is going to be the next step in air traffic control for airports. Now, what the FAA wants to do is to develop a qualified vendor list. Right now, there's one other company in the country, and that's Solid Census, that's doing a program in Leeds, Virginia. I've listed the Solid Census. I'm very grateful with them. I've worked with them. They were the census part of that group, the ones that deployed our phase 1 of our wide remote lab. And I actually did the siting for their camera system for them. So I'm very familiar with that program. They probably will come to the industry day. Talis will come forward.
of different technologies that are out there. I reviewed all of these technologies, and for the most part, I find them lacking. I can get into that discussion if you like. It has primarily to do with the video component and the way they use the video to lift aerials into the airspace and the amount of bandwidth that's required. For that reason, I'm pushing for a track-based radar, if you will, based solution for the airspace, for that Class D airspace. That's the reason, one of the reasons we chose Jason's airport is because it's got an ASR-9 located just to the east of it. And we can get that direct feed from the STARS platform that's located in Denver Trade Road.
So I'm just trying to swim here to understand what everything, so if we can't get someone to donate that piece of it, and Jason weigh in here too, and the airport can't step up for that, what is the alternative? How do we get that?
We aren't involved in the donation part. We are prepared to, we have the funds, or the FAA has your funds,
right,
to do that. So we're not involved in that. Okay. Our program is fully funded.
So that potentially would come out of the $8 million roughly that was awarded back.
Correct.
So if someone doesn't step up and donate that, it could be paid for. I guess that's the point I'm trying to get to.
I'm not sure I understand the question. As I said, that industry day that's going to be on the 22nd of August or September is going to be to develop a qualified vendors list.
Okay.
We are hoping to get a vendor on board well in advance of that.
Okay.
So we can move forward. I don't know if I answered your question. If I didn't, I'm not sure.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is you think that we could get a qualified vendor before that. You're not comfortable with the vendors that may be coming.
I didn't say that. What I said was that when that industry day occurs, there's going to be several people there, okay? And because we're the ones that, or our program has funds within the FAA, we will be the star of the program, right?
Got it, yeah.
And that is going to, then you may have to enter into an FAA procurement process, which is really will not be good for our schedule.
Okay.
A related question to that, in terms of your vendor selection, are you, and you've already indicated that some of your intelligent video is not all that robust. That's been our experience, by the way, on security systems that we've tested. Is your vendor selection based primarily on the quality of the video or on the vendor's ability to participate financially?
No, the FAA would like to have their ability to participate financially. My requirements, which I have produced a requirements document, which you see in my reports. My requirement is the video is ATM quality, air traffic quality. And there are a number of vendors around the world that have ATM quality. That's a key factor. We're looking at various tracking technologies as well, tracking and stitching technologies of the video.
Sounds all right. Any other questions?
I may have some as we progress, but no.
John, you all right? No. Yeah. Okay, Dave?
You bet, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bill.
Hello, that's on that. In your board packet was a memo explaining this next agenda item on the proposed contract renewal with William E. Payne and Associates. Just to run through this for the other folks, back on July 18th, I sent all of you a summary contractual history with William E. Payne and Associates in their efforts on behalf of the division since 2004, when we undertook the wide area multilateration / mountain radar program. Is really when all that kicked off. expired many years ago, but back in 2012, the board, the division executed a new contract with William Haynes Associates to do the second phase of the wide area multi-lat. That Diane? And that was completed. That was the southwest region airports. That was Durango and Telluride, Montrose, and those areas down there. That phase of multi-lat, that was the first part of Bill's most recent contract, was completed in 2013. And now we're on to the next part of the contract, which is a couple of things. The bulk of it is the remote control tower project at Fort Collins level, but there's also scope of work in there relative to Bill's work on the development of unmanned aerial systems and consistent with the direction the board gave it back to the workshop. So that's part of this as well. So the Bill's contract and all of its extensions expired at the end of July, and we work on a new contract to get us through to, as Bill just talked about, the next step of the remote tower project we've been working on since 2013. That scope of work, Bill and I worked on it together, and that's attached to your memo. That reflects what we believe as of today is the remaining effort needed. As Bill indicated, I think the biggest challenge that we have with this project, and it's the same with the Mount Radar project, is it's our funds, but we've given them to the FAA, and they manage the project for us. They do it, again, as Bill said, with our encouragement and our coercion and our influence and our input. But in the end, it's their project. They decide how it goes. They manage how it works, and it's their project. They're just using our money to do it under a reimbursement agreement. Again, using the $8.8 million that the board provided them in 2013, of which today there's just under $6 million left. So there's roughly $2.8 million, Bill, I think, some measures were broken down that they've spent on the effort to date. So that's kind of where we are today. So as Bill and I sat down, in my airport days, I got to spend a lot of my time negotiating consultant contracts. And so the first step with that, and I'm sorry if this is elementary, but I just want to make sure you all understand how we go through this, is to decide what's left to do, come up with a scope of work, and then ask for a price on that scope of work. And that's the way that we did it again with Bill. It's the way airports do it with engineering contracts and everything else. So the thing that's a little bit different about our contract with Bill, and it's always been this way with the division, is it's been a fixed fee contract. We don't pay per hour, we don't pay per trip, we don't pay that way. We say, this is how much we're going to pay you to do this amount of work, and if it takes X number of hours, the price is the same. If it takes 4X the number of hours, the price is the same. Division, historically, I wasn't here, but I can tell you that from a fixed fee standpoint, the protection for us is that for a project with a lot of unknowns like this, a fixed fee arrangement gives us the protection, if you will, that if there's a crazy turn of requirements that the FAA puts on the project, or there's some reason that our contractor has to travel to DC 5 times a week for a month, that our price is the same, and that we're protected. We know exactly what we'll pay over the life of the contract. So we continue that price that structure rather, going forward into his new contract. So based on the scope of work, sat down with Bill. We had some nice conversations about the fee. We talked at length about that. We came up with what we felt was a good fee for the scope of work necessary to see the project at Northern Colorado Regional Airport through to the finish line. The extra step that we took, that we're not required to, not by FAA, not by state rules, but we basically followed what the FAA would refer to as an independent fee estimate process, where we take the scope of work, and this is what airports are required to do when they get a grant from John on engineering or other consulting fees to make sure that you're getting a fair and reasonable price for your work, is we take the scope, we send it to another qualified aviation firm that's familiar with that kind of work, and we say, all right, what would you charge to do this scope of work? And then from that, you can either validate or negotiate the fee that your contractor has proposed. And that's what we did for this. All of that detail is in the memo that I proposed. So just in summary, the proposed fee for 3 years to see not just Jason's project through to the end, but also to continue to do the UAS work for the division that you all have talked to me about last September, was $381,077 for 3 years. That's about $125,000 per year. We shipped that out to Mead & Hunt. That was the firm that did a lot of airport engineering here in town. They've worked with Bill and other projects, so they're familiar with that. They've had part of multi-lat before. Their independent fee estimate to do the same scope of work was $604,319. So from from our perspective, and indeed if this were an FAA project, they would say the fees are reasonable and customary. So we kind of, I don't want to say check that box, but we didn't have to, but we did anyway. And so that was the one step we did to make sure that what we were getting was reasonable and customary, would be the term that you would use with FAA. So we checked that box, and then the one thing I would also note is that Bill's current contract with us has a lot more UAS work in it that we've dialed back based on the direction of the board, and we largely focused on him helping the division and CDOT work on UAS deployment internally, and that's about it. His previous contract with us was just over $30,000 a month. Now it's down to just over 10. So we've negotiated, I think, a significant and very reasonable fee reduction, but I think it's also reflective of the work that's been done so far, and that the fee reduction shows that we've got a lot done. I know sometimes on a project like this, as we were talking about, it's a little different than a runway where you go, all right, I'm going to build a runway and I'm going to buy this asphalt, I'm going to buy this, sub-base, I'm going to buy this paint, we're going to build it, we're going to pave it. You can see it getting done, and the end is you get a runway. With mountain radar and with this, it's different. We don't have necessarily a hard deliverable like you would on a traditional project to show some of this is like we've talked about. It's sometimes, and it's just the nature of doing an innovative, unique project that nobody has done before. It doesn't necessarily follow a very prescriptive path like a traditional project. So it makes it challenging to do the scope and to do some of those things. But as we put this together, as we've visited with FAA, I visited with Paul Fontaine yesterday. He's the director of the FAA's Next Gen office. He's managing this project. We got caught up, talked about it. They're very comfortable that they'll have another vendor selected, as Bill talked about, very soon. I think once we have a vendor selected, we will see much more hard milestones. We will be able to see equipment going in the ground, things getting plugged in, testing starting. It's just getting to that point with the FAA, and kind of the false start we got with Thales has really kind of put us back. We were hoping to have equipment getting installed this summer, but the Thales proposal didn't work. I will say, Bill didn't really get into it, but the Thales proposal would have used almost every single penny we had left with the FAA. To the FAA's credit, they said, we don't really want to do that. That might have been the easiest thing to do, but it's probably not the best. We'll start it, it's going to take a little extra time, but we'll be able to do it right, and we'll probably not have to spend all of it doing just that. We would love to have that money left over to start this process at another important applications. So we're trying to be very FAA to do that. So that's part of the method to the madness too. But again, we get a vendor selected here before fall, which I think is now the feedback we've gotten. It's highly likely that in the spring we'll start moving dirt, putting things at Jason's airport, and turning things on and going through a test program where we can really show you how it's going. So that's kind of how we've gotten to where we are. That's where we are going forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the contract and how we've gotten to where we are. I wasn't with the division when we did what we're doing by that. I wasn't to state, so I do know a little bit about that. I did have the opportunity when I was at Aspen to be part of the process to put cameras at Aspen for the runway extension. Again, that was the first of its kind ever, where we used cameras in lieu of new power to make sure airplanes could get seen in the runway extension. That was almost took us longer to do that than to build a runway extension. And so, but in the end, they've got a fantastic set of cameras at Aspen that do exactly what they're supposed to do, and they were able to use that runway extension without having to build a new control tower. Getting there took a long time, a lot of work. But that's kind of where we're at. And again, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions I can about what staff's role was at this point in the contract.
Thanks, Dave, for that update. I'll just open it up to the board. We start down there with Joe, and we'll work our way this way.
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
KT?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Let me preface with a statement. The first statement is that I have the utmost respect for Bill and his expertise, and so my questions have nothing to do with that. I'll also say that back in 12 when that vote came up, I was probably the only one voting against it, not because of Bill, it was because of my uneasiness with some of the things that you talked about. It's just kind of mushy, you know. And I have a problem with spending taxpayers' money on mushy stuff, right? And as I read through this report, the FAA is running the whole thing, we're funding it, but we got no control over what the FAA does or what kind of time frame they have or anything else. Yet we're an agency based on a financial report that's underwater ourselves. And I would assume that if this thing is developed successfully, that it's going to be applied across the country. Just as, we did so with the WIMS and that sort of thing. So why the hell are we funding it? When we got no control over it, nothing to say about it, Bill's just our representative in the room. Why? Would be my question. That'd be the first thing. The second thing is, given all those uncertainties, why would we do a 3-year contract, right? Why we look at it from year to year and look at what's going on from a progress standpoint point of view from year to year? Why lock into a multi-year contract when we don't even know what the hell is going to happen? That's another problem that I have. I got some other issues, but that's enough to start, and I'll pass it on to my fellow board members.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to address these, or do you want to get to all the questions first and then?
I'm not in a position to answer the first one because I wasn't the director when the CAB chose to do this project back in 2012. So I don't know, I think only a handful of you were on that, and maybe somebody else in the room. Kenny left, but my understanding of it is the division, just like with wide area multi-lat, you like being first, you're out to solve a problem. One of the problems we have.
We had a lot more money back in 12 too.
I'm sorry?
I said we had a lot more money back in 12.
Exactly. And, that we were out to solve a problem. As you saw, we were out to solve an issue about airplanes not being able to get into our mountain airports when the weather was poor and wide area multi-lat. Nobody had ever done it, but we did it to solve that problem. In Jason's case, he lost air service in part because he doesn't have an air traffic control tower, and that loss of air service cost him $850,000 a year in federal funding, and it's having an economic impact. As we met with the mayors of Fort Collins and Loveland, the lack of air service has an economic impact on northern Colorado's ability to attract businesses and do the kinds of things. Not that they don't mind driving down here, but it's a lot more convenient for them when they have their own air service. So we're out to solve that issue, and I will never say his airport's unsafe, but I do fly out of his airport at least once a month. It's a busy place. Steve knows. And so we're out to solve that issue. How could we help them become safer, maybe retain air service, and be a better airport? That was one of the problems we were trying to solve, I think, is how I understand it. Again, you all decided to undertake that project, and there's other airports in the state and across the country that have similar issues that this technology could be used to solve. It's just, again, as part of our pioneering efforts. I don't know if that answers your question, T, by history, but I think that, at least I was in Colorado in 2012 up in Aspen, following the CAB at that time. I think that was the mentality. I still see Bill nodding and Jason nodding. I think that was the mentality of we have an issue, let's see how we can fix it, and what can the division do? And yes, at that point we did. We had a lot more resources than we do today. As for the second part of your contract, we can certainly talk about a semi-year contract. Typically we have done longer contracts with options to extend. The last contract, I think, was a 3-year contract with 4 one-year options. It becomes a little bit challenging to manage administratively in a government operation like CDOT, but that's not something we can't overcome. But there's certainly some flexibility to look at that differently. I will say, I think, like anything, the longer your term, the better price you get sometimes, but we can talk about that.
But that assumes you know what you're getting.
What was that, Keith?
So that assumes you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And if somebody else, some third party, doesn't control the whole process.
All right, thank you. Jeff, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, no.
Comments?
Well, comments, I suspect I was one of the others that did support this. I think we tested in the guise of it being a leadership initiative on behalf of the state, something that would increase the access and viability of the national airspace system, at least over Colorado, and perhaps serve as a model for the nation. It's not unusual that when one does partnerships like this and brings to the table in kind, whether it's cash or assets or otherwise, to other third-party contractual agreements, that you don't have total control. I know that other public institutions, such as educational institutions, face the same problem all the time, where they're bringing cash or equipment or labs or faculty or whatever. And timelines slip, things go awry because you don't have total control like you might do in a business enterprise where you're funding the whole thing yourself. So I still see it as a very strong strategic asset for establishing the state. We don't have a problem with contractual, leading that up, of renewing it on a year by year or whatever, but I don't share the same concerns you do in terms of with any kind of an entrepreneurial spirit or leadership, there's always uncertainty. Now, maybe we want to sit down and start saying, this is a milestone that we can't go past without some sort of criteria to it, but to go retroactive now, I think is somewhat remiss in front of the taxpayers.
But just to be clear, I don't have a problem philosophically with anything we're doing in terms of control tower, etc. I'm more concerned with the process and how the agency does its business. So just to be clear what the concern is.
And I would add that I think that's a fair concern, and we need to look at it going forward. But I would sure hate to put this in jeopardy, because that was not done in the past under different management and under different circumstances.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Robert, you have anything you want to add at this point?
Yeah, I certainly do. First of all, R&D is always fuzzy. I think that's the nature of the beast, and so we have to kind of take that into consideration. I think what has been done so far within this context of R&D has been very successful. Look at multi-lat, look at the mountain surveillance radar system. We've got successes. I think with any program, you have to reevaluate. You have to have your benchmarks, your milestones. Try to meet those, try to understand when they aren't met what the external and internal obstacles were to getting there. But R&D is never easy. This is cutting edge, leading edge, maybe even bleeding edge. I actually would like to, I prefer to see a long-term contract for the very simple reason is that if you go year to year, you're just going to have way too many starts and stops. All I have to do is point out to AIP and reauthorization and going with every, each CR. I mean, John, you know how difficult it is to budget plan and do projects when you don't know from one day to the next whether you have the money or not. And I think you have to have a long-term program in place so that you can go beyond. And of course, a lot of this is subject to appropriations at the end of the day, but you have to have some stability in that program to make it as successful as can be. So all I want to do is just point out to AIP and reauthorization for the need for a 3-year contract that I would suggest, along with T's concerns, that we carefully look at the benchmarks and make sure that we have some answers if we're not meeting them, whether they come from Bill or whether they come from the FAA, that we have at least internally an understanding. I think the other concern is, and we discussed this in light of the financial situation that the board was in last year in terms of this program. Could we get the $8 million back? A, would kill the program. B, wouldn't get us out of the hole at this point. And we have this entrepreneurial spirit within the Division of Aeronautics for the state of Colorado, and I'd like to just like to see this proceed. I was actually shocked by the fee schedule that Bill had presented. I could, from my experience, having done contracts for 33 years, my initial reaction was, that's not enough money. And then I think to myself, you get what you pay for. I provide a lot of free advice to people, and I always tell them you get what you pay for. Bill's case might be the exception to that rule, so I think this is a really good deal.
Thank you, Robert. Ann, do you have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I do. And first I want to say that I'm very supportive of what we're doing here. And I think that it aids in the safety across the state of everything that we're doing. However, coming from a business background as well, I think that it is prudent on our part, especially when you're managing tight budgets and stuff here, that maybe we do look at, I like the idea of the 1-year contract with a review process, maybe 6-month review in there. I don't think it slows down anything because we've already awarded the money to the FAA. They can continue their work as well. What we're looking at here is a 1-year review of the consultant contract on there, and I think that's different. I don't think that slows down the process really at all. So that would be my preference. You know, looking and reading through, things are going to slip. I mean, that's just a given in the environment that we're in. But I don't know what the magic is of 3 years. You know, in my reading and in my conversation with Dave yesterday, I think we're estimating that these projects will be finished. Bill, you can speak to this within that 3-year time frame. But if anything slips, then we're out again. Anyway, so I think that we just need to have look at benchmarks here and review the process maybe a little closer to that in the past. And you know, my recommendation too would also be that we do a 1-year somewhere in that neighborhood review of the contract again. Well, that's my comment.
Okay. John? I was here when we first approved that, and I've known Bill a long time, so I had high regard for him. And I think a 3-year contract would be a lot better than year to year in that sense. I'm in that business too, and it gives you start and stop, and after that, come up between them and not knowing what's going to happen next year, for sure. It doesn't let you get the most out of your money. So there is some stuff with the FAA. It has some of the power. I think Bill can follow that. He took us up and we visited with Michael Huerta, and he knows his way around and he's good with that. So, and being that this is Huerta, a key thing that he wants to get done, I think we'd follow Bill's technology. We've got to put it in here. Be out front. That's what we are.
Okay, thanks, guys. Before I open it back up to Bill Davis, we're here in 1 year, we're here in 3 year, and so I guess I kind of come in the middle somewhere. I mean, we can adjust this contract to, I think, just about whatever we want as long as it's agreeable with all the parties. So if we had a 2-year with the possibility of a 1-year extension, or we open it up at 2 years and we say, you know what, this ain't working. We're done, we're finished, we're washing our hands of it. That's a possibility. Or we can say, we need as a board team to make some adjustments. How much money we got with the FAA? Where are these programs? Where are the benchmarks? How far have we come? What have we got left to do? So I don't know what the board will do here in a few minutes in terms of this contract, but to me, it seems like that if we did, and the reason we talked about a 2-year with a 1-year extension, and that's a, I think that's kind of the middle of the road. I think that's something that would work. So Joe,
Sure, thank you. The conversation's been helpful as I've been thinking about questions.
Sure.
So it seems to me that it's a 3-year term because there's 3 years worth of milestones laid out here. So it seems to be why that would be there. What I don't see in here is a notice provision. It might be in the contract itself because it looks like we only have the scope of work. At what point can the board terminate a contract in process? What's the notice provision in there?
He can terminate it at any time, so then I'll have to look to see what the date is.
Probably 30 days or something?
Yeah, 30 days, 60 days. We do have a lot of flexibility, Joe, in those kinds of terms.
Yeah.
Let's see how we're not to put those in, so we expire us, we're tired of
I was going to say, that seems to be that's common practice, it seems to me. So as long as it's not an unreasonably long notice provision, if it's 30 days, 60 days, but the 3-year contract to me makes sense. That's, I guess, on that one issue, that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. So Dave, you want to?
The one last thing, Mr. Chair, that I would add in my memos that I would reach out to FAA and see if funds that we've already provided to them could be used to fund this contract. And that's not been the case. We paid for it out of our current budget year. And the answer is they're willing to do that. Paul Fontaine, the next gen director, said, I'm willing to do that. He's not certain there's a legal administrative financial mechanism within FAA to have some contract directly with FAA. And I'm not supportive of that because then Bill's working for the FAA, not for us. And Bill and I've had that conversation. So we need him to be our advocate, not the FAA's advocate. So I'm going to continue those conversations with FAA, and I should know more by the end of this week whether there is a mechanism outside of actually them contracting with them directly for the FAA to fund money back to us for this contract. So I'll have more to know on that on Friday.
all that?
I would defer to the board. I think that's really more of a funding issue. It contract you running budget this year, out years, contract that we have more than the past. We have over $329,000 this year for this particular piece of work. And we're proposing the contract of $121,026. So one way or the other, it would get paid for. I wouldn't recommend we hold it up based on that FAA information. I don't know that there's any benefit to that from staff's perspective.
I think that any contract would have a termination clause in it. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, the contract would have a termination in the interest of the state. And the only component of that sometimes is forgotten is that whatever work has been done, even if it's beyond what was contractually agreed upon prior to that date, they're still entitled to cover that because the state can't get work for free. But you can terminate any state contract in the interest of the state. So that's always an option. It's not what you go into a contract looking for, though. You look at it for performance size, but there are opportunities to do that.
There usually always is. You need that in.
Yes.
So that's not an issue, I would say, for 3 years.
I have one more question. I don't know if it goes to you today. If we have a 3-year and the project's not done at the end of the 3 years, are we negotiating a new contract? Is there an extension on the contract? I mean, do we have any recourse on the contract? I mean, that's another piece of it for me.
And I can answer that in the conversation I've had with Bill, is that we would expect that this dollar amount, whether it was 3 years or 18 months, the language in the contract, that covers us to the completion of the project. And Bill, I'm trained to that. And we would be very clear that it covers over 3 years.
We had some discussion
That
related to that.
$381,000 gets us to the end.
That's the end. That's the end. There's no more.
Say that again, Leo, so I don't think the rest of the guys...
Yeah, well, basically, we had discussions about that, and if it took years and a month or 2 years, there's not more money. That's the end day.
Did you guys hear that?
So what does completion mean?
For us, if you look at the thing, it is the certification, the initial operating capability, or IOC of remote power facility. That's a very hard stop. FAA certifying based on running, that system is usable elsewhere than the national system.
So when we're saying that at Jason's airport,
That would be at Fort Collins, since it's Fort Colorado.
And why would Bill sign a contract like that, given that it takes the FAA twice as long to certify an airplane, and this is an experimental thing? Maybe Bill can explain that, Mr. Payne?
Bill?
Mr. Payne, why would you sign a contract that carries you beyond 3 years, meaning certification by the FAA of a functioning system, and it takes the FAA twice as long to... That's what I thought.
If I can have control, I'll be more than happy to step up to it, but I have no control. The FAA is calling the shots, and so again, we went through the same process when we did Library Multiway, and it was totally brand new system. And, there are no guarantees that any project that we're doing. What you have to do is you've got to say, I trust Bill Payne to work in our best behalf. If you don't, I would suggest you get somebody that you do trust.
No, I don't think the issue is trust, No, it's just to be clear. Let me tell you what the issue is, because you raised it. You said you don't have any control, this is all FAA, okay? And you are our representative in the room. And my point is, what do I need a representative in the room for? It's an FAA project, they have total control over it. They should fund it, because we're gonna roll it out across the country. So why is it that the state of Colorado is funding something that the FAA has total control over? And we're paying for our representative to be in the room. That's essentially what we're doing, that's the contract.
Well, there are a couple of answers to that. Number one is, if left to their own devices, if they...
No disrespect intended.
This this will go on forever. Okay? My basic job is to not only make sure that the project moves forward, but also make sure that it moves forward in as ambitious a way as possible. You know, that's one of my biggest jobs. Right? And it is being able to go and talk to various people within the FAA organization when need be, and as they say, not moving the machine, and moving the project forward.
Let me ask you one question. If you got the FAA to pay for that, would you be any less of an advocate from a process standpoint? Because the check wasn't coming from us, but it was coming from the feds.
No, I wouldn't. Because, look, my loyalty is to the state of Colorado. I mean, that's the only reason I'm doing this. I would prefer to work for you. Right? And because I will tell you, working for the FAA, that fee will be a lot more money.
Yeah,
Okay. You want me to tell you why?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, jump in, and there's a great analogy on construction projects. We always have an advocate for the airport that handles our construction projects funded by FAA or funded by any other person. That person represents, the project manager represents our interest, because if you leave it up to the contractor, John, no slight to my colleague here. But if you leave it up to the contractor, you're going to have change orders every turn, and there's nobody to watch over that. And in this case, Bill is the advocate for the state of Colorado. That's the way I'm understanding this project. And I think that's why you have to have a champion on behalf of this airport project that we're looking at, the virtual tower program. I think that's why you have to have it on the UAS program. You always want to have some degree of control. Why does the FAA have control? Because at the end of the day, they're the big dog. They're the ones that will sign off on this. So they've got a big stake in this, and I can understand why they would want to maintain a high degree of control. But you have got to have a checks and balance, and that's what Bill or any other contractor that would be signed to do this represents for the vision and for the state of Colorado. And that's all I want to say.
I didn't mean to imply that you guys don't trust me.
We don't. No.
I'm sure you clarified that. So, but I mean, the simple fact of the matter is that we're embarking on a totally new concept. And like a pure research project, we're going to get something out of it. I have negotiated with the FAA to pay for the system for 2 years after it is implemented, which goes directly to Jason's airport. Okay? And to also supply the controllers during that 2-year period. That's a big deal, because Dave and I went up and gave the mayors the ultimatum on what this is all expected to cost after the giving the hints. And so it's very important to be able to understand that there's a lot more to this program than just the technical. I would much rather do just the technical. That's a lot more fun. So
this up any more than what it's already been. I think that this has been a great discussion. I think there's been some very valid points. And I do like the idea of the termination clause that is pretty typical with any contract, whether it be 30 or 60 days, but something to keep in mind. You know, we meet every 2 months normally. I mean, that's what we've done over the last, I guess, course of the year, except for these last 3 months of the year where we're going to be meeting every month. So something to think about then, if you have a 30-day clause in there and we're at the end of just ending a meeting, then by the same token, we can always call a special meeting too. So it probably doesn't weigh in a lot on that, but just something to think about as we go through that. So I guess a couple options on the table is accept the proposal as is with any amendments that the board feels is necessary to complete this contract and or 1-year contract. This is the way I'm seeing it. If I'm missing something here, somebody can correct before we move on.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract as is.
Any amendments?
No, sir.
Second. Got a motion and a second. I'll just ask, so is there any discussion?
Yeah, like on any kind, when you have a contract like this, you have reviews between the owner and the contractor. So, you know, we automatically will follow what he's doing and he'll report to us, or we can sit down at any time and bring Bill in and go over what he's done, where he's at, if he's meeting the milestones. So that's just typical. It's probably in the contract somewhere to that, or should be.
Oh, it should be.
And if it's not, we can...
There is reporting requirements that are in there, and that's the crux of the reports that are in your CAB packet. If you go back to when I started, the bill has added a lot more detail to those reports that you all got before I came on board. And one of the things that we can certainly do is if, especially once we get equipment in the ground and start doing that, is if it's helpful, we can maybe add every other board meeting an extra long expected time to cover it all in a lot more detail than we do. You know, we try to back full of reports time, give you the right amount of info without giving you too much. And so I'll reiterate, if you're getting too much info, not just on this, but on anything, let me know. If you're not getting enough, let us know, and staff will adjust accordingly. We'll make sure we don't overwhelm you, but give you the right information you need.
Dave, if you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, if the report that is in our board packet that comes in on this, for me, I don't know about anybody else, could be put in more of the format that you do the audit update, you know, with the bars. That would be much more helpful to me to see progress and what's happening than going through. I tend to get lost in the ongoing in process, nothing happening, and I don't really see the rest of it.
You bet. And we talked about that. I had this. So what I got from the FAA, I'll share that with you. Maybe this is something you like. This is a schedule of what's expected to happen with the leased remote tower that Bill talked about. There's a picture of how they expect. They're actually in the certification phase right now. So if something like this would be helpful to the board, I will work with Bill and Sean to come up with something like this to provide you a visual idea of what that 7 pages look like. If you find that helpful, we're certainly willing to do that. And that would be easy to do. Okay. And on top of that, I'll give you an idea of what's coming down our road, because a lot of those steps that are on that sheet will be steps that we get involved in this time of year. So if that's something that you would like to see, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, so I made this motion, and I have only one other comment on that. So the meet and hunt proposal is what, 5 times what is currently contracted, correct? So I just want the board to be somewhat cognizant of the fact that if Bill gets hit by a bus tomorrow, are we prepared to proceed with another contractor at a higher rate? And I'm not saying, Bill, that you would be, but it's just a fact of life that sometimes.
Well, I'd like to piggyback on that and just ask a question or maybe make a comment. If something did happen, Bill, do we have bench strength? Do we have someone behind him who is working this process along? Bill, maybe you can answer it alongside him so that if something did happen to him, you know, God forbid, that we wouldn't be completely...
Can we trust that,
The short answer is yes. If you remember, this was one of the audit recommendations from Aeronautical Board was that there was not really an emergency plan. You know, hopefully not hit by a bus,
obviously funds all kinds of projects and initiatives that it gives the states control over administering the money for, right? Yeah, that's and I get back to and this got nothing to do with you, Bill. This is just a philosophical. I don't understand why they don't give us money that we could administer and pay bills. I got a fundamental problem with a project like this coming out of our paycheck, out of our bank account. And it's an issue much bigger than just Colorado. That's my fundamental problem.
I might be able to shed a little bit of light on that. And I'll use phase one of our winery multi-level. Or a project that Dave's very familiar with and John Bowers with. And that's a tower in Aspen, Colorado. It's on the waterfall. Okay. You place the tower. We can get cameras up there today because with our winery multi-level, there was a problem that affected the state. And that's the reason we went forward with that. And the FAA said, we're not going to fund this. You have to put legacy radars all over the place. And the answer was, if you want to solve, you solve. So the state of Colorado, if we're thinking like they are, said, okay, let's do it. So that's, the FAA won't take on this project. They are not going to fund the That's what the reality is.
Just one, I have a comment to in response to yours, funding a project that we have no control of and some of the other things you said, but, we got to remember what's been accomplished. And had we not been paying for that, I'm going to step out on a limb here, we probably wouldn't have had wide area multilateration. And to Bill's credit, I mean, we were the pilot for it was a pilot project for the whole nation, and he stepped up and working with the FAA, you got it done. And there's other states that would like to follow our lead on that. And so, I just think that's a prime example of being proactive and thinking outside the box and taking the lead in the aviation industry and the technology that's available out there. So that's just...
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that. I guess my distinction would be two things. Number one, and I say this, no disrespect intended whatsoever. Looking at an Aspen situation and the economic impact of what happens at Aspen Airport with respect to people coming all over the world to get in there, at a time when we were flush with cash, there's a different situation than the one we're looking at now. Just that'll be my final comment.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Guess we'll call for the question.
We have a motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Right.
Okay, to accept as is, and any amended language that needs to be in there as discussed. Termination clause, talked about if something happens to Bill and what's the provisions for that, and we're not left hanging out to dry and all that stuff. So it's already in there. It's already in there, so. Okay, call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I abstain. I got mixed emotions, so I'm going to abstain. I'm in favor of the concept, but at a time when the agency is underwater and we're borrowing money to fund our core stuff, anyway, that's the reason for my abstention.
T abstained and you?
Abstain as well.
Okay, so we have 2 abstentions and the rest voted in favor. We still got quite a bit left on this agenda. Does anybody feel like we need to take a 5 or 10 minute break? Anybody want to do that? You want to move on? Move on? Okay. All right, we'll get into the governing documents for the Colorado Aeronautical Board. There's been a lot of time involved in this. This document was, I believe, supposed to have been reviewed back in 2015 of February. Is that correct, Dave?
I don't know that there was a set review time. This was a document that was originally drafted back in 2010 as a result of the 2009 internal audit. It had not been looked at or updated since then. So after we got the Programs and Procedures Manual updated, we took some time with this, Anna T. and Leo and I all played a key role in updating this. But I think we've got a good document. Ray, we deleted like 8 pages out of the table of contents just for you.
Well, I always think that if we can...
Really, I think the biggest addition, as you all saw, was the board member ethics and duty and responsibility, duty and care. That was a whole section that was added. The rest of it were some technical updates and some other adjustments. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward document. Staff would recommend approval of the governance document.
Yeah, so this was, I'm pretty sure that all the board members have had time to read that amended governing documents. There's been a lot of time vetted. T put some time in it, and Ann put time in it. Leo's got a lot of time, as well as Dave and myself. A couple things that was referenced in this is Robert's Rules of Order. I don't know if anybody's ever gone to the internet and typed out or had printed your Robert's Rules of Order, and we tried to run our meetings according to Bob's rules, but that would add about another 15 to 20 pages to this document. So we referenced Robert's Rules of Order according to that, and then also the executive session clause that I had requested. I think that's on page 24 of the document. I think it's always important that when myself or anybody else that is ever in this position to run a meeting, there are certain criteria for executive sessions. And so I think based on my suggestion, Dave inserted that. That's just under board. Page 24 it is right there. Where is that, Dave?
Page 23.
23, I'm sorry. Page 23 where we referenced, where is it?
Page 23, 24 of 26, but the actual page of the document is 23.
And where's it say the executive session?
It's under D.
Okay, there we go, D. So pursuant to 24-6-402, parentheses 3, at regular or special meetings, the board may meet in executive session. So this actually tells us what we can do in terms of, got to have a 2/3 vote. We can't make decisions. It's basically a discussion session. And that kind of lays out that criteria, but it doesn't give you the exact why you can have an executive session and what they're designed to do. Is that correct? Is that fair statement?
Correct. Yes.
And so we did reference the Colorado revised statutes in that. So, and that also helped condense the amount of paperwork that we have within this document. Yep.
And the duty of care, and that language that was added, where does that come from?
Me.
Okay. It's good enough for me.
Yeah, that was something that should be inserted.
In representing other boards, some of that language was utilized in their governance documents, so I thought it was appropriate to give additional guidance, because that's what this is a guidance document that might be of use to new board members.
Great. I just didn't know where the source of that was, so.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And Mr. Chair, just one other add relative to how long it had been since the board had looked at this document. We did add language in there requiring us to take a look at it no less than every 3 years, even if we just re-sign it. So.
Yep.
And the reason we put the 3-year in there is because we're basically on a 3-year term, and it didn't make sense to go out 5 years, so that's why we inserted that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the original guidance document was from whole cloth. There wasn't another Aeronautics Division board that had any bylaws or governance documents nationally. So a lot of credit has to go to the board that was in place and Mr. Thibodeau from 2010 when they put this together, because there wasn't any in existence. So with that as a template, we were able to, I think, to come up with a pretty complete set of documents for the present board.
Sure. All right. So what's the board's pleasure?
I would move that we accept it in its new form.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor.
Second that.
Motion and second to approve the revised, amended, brought up up-to-date governing documents for the Colorado Aeronautical Board. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. All right, so we move on to remote tower blended airspace project bill. And we already kind of got that report ahead of time, so I think we're good. All right, legislative issues. FAA reauthorization.
3 words, John's got money. So. Mr. Chair, just real briefly, a couple of months ago, Congress did reauthorize FAA through the end of next fiscal year, which was the 1-year bill. So that was the longest we've had in a while. It's not ideal, but at least gets us through the election. And long story short, we'll hope after the presidential election, we can re-engage in the discussion, get a multi-year FAA bill, and give airports and everybody else a little certainty on FAA funding, and make it a lot easier for John and his office to administer the money that they do get. So that's a quick update. I'm happy if John has anything to add.
Mr. Chairman, just one other item, that is an authorization. Unfortunately, we still have the appropriation portion of that to go through, which most likely in what we're seeing will be diced up potentially again in some type of 6-month to 9-month distribution of funds. So we're not out of the woods while we have the authorization for a full year. We do not have the appropriation, which is the actual money. So we could run into some other barriers potentially next year.
Thank you, sir. Any comments, questions for Dave or John? Okay. Seaplane update.
Just real briefly, Ray Hawkins from the Seaplane Pilots Association will be here to give us a quick update on their fly-in. I will say that I was disappointed I didn't get to make it. For all the Alert 1 aircraft incidents I ever dealt with at Centennial that morning, I got to be one myself. We made it about 8 miles away from Centennial, and our airplane started running not so well, so we came back, and I ended up not being able to make it, even though my buddy and his son and I had planned to go. But anyway, sounds like you had a good time, so give us an update on what happened.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Talk to Aspen Flight.
All right, let's see here. Is this thing working?
Sean might have that.
There we go. Okay, Colorado first ever seaplane splashing occurred June 18th. We made history. We had 4 seaplanes landing on Lake Meredith, and this was the very first aircraft to land. It's a turbine-powered Beaver flown by Mark Lennart. And we opened a seaplane base now in Colorado, seeing as it's the only state in the union that does not allow seaplanes in any of the state-owned waterways or waterways. We feel like this is a very significant movement. As you can see from this little slide, we had a lot of people there. We had some honored guests. We had Senator Crowder and Bill Hughes, who represents the lake owner, as well as Mr. Allnock, who is the county commissioner for the county. And we also had a naming contest at the local high school there. And Mr. Bryce Burr was the one who won that contest, and he got a ride at we provided bus transportation between the La Junta Airport, which was our staging site for the seaplanes, in order to meet the intent to avoid invasive species introduction. We had our seaplanes land at La Junta and were inspected. In fact, Senator Crowder inspected the very first one and wrote it off, and was the honorary inspector for that. Lake Meredith lies between Ordway, Colorado, and Sugar City. It's way out in the middle of nowhere, basically. And it is about 3 to 4 miles long and about a mile wide. It is a fairly shallow lake, but with the sparsely populated areas, we had a lot of opportunity to operate with just about any direction, and we had a lot of people from these communities coming out. They really liked the opportunity and wanted to be able to enjoy it along with us. Seaplane is on the north shore. It's part of the county park. The county park is open to anybody for camping at any time, and so we had to get there early enough to be able to try to secure a couple of areas for our operation. As it turned out, we weren't able to do that. We had a lot of people there that were there not only to see the seaplanes, but also just to enjoy the park. But we were able to operate seamlessly without any incidents whatsoever. The honored guests were there. We presented with some plaques in order to commemorate the day, and Senator Crowder's on the left. While we were there, we had submitted through the FAA some paperwork for a privately owned seaplane base, and we were granted that paperwork, and we marked the seaplane base with a air mark that represents an average. You can see we had several people working on it and produced a very nice product. We're now trying to keep people from camping on top of it. As I said, we had 4 seaplanes. Mark Lenart was the the turbine-powered beaver. We had a couple of lake amphibians, and we also had a 206 on floats. The economic impact of this splash-in was approximately $36,000. Whenever you consider all of the direct expenses that we had, plus the operating costs of the aircraft associated, we had direct expenditure of over $20,000. And whenever we use the multiplier for the indirect, we come up with a total of $36,000. If all the seaplanes that are registered in Colorado operated just 50 hours per year, we have a total annual impact of close to $2 million. We're going to enable South Airlines for the most economic impact. I thought that was Anyway, for the future, our next splash-in is going to be up in the Fort Collins-Greeley area. We're in negotiations right now with a privately owned lake up in that area, and hopefully we'll be able to have something. It will probably occur sometime early May or June of next year. We're promoting 3 legislative initiatives for the seaplanes. One of them is access, the other is invasive species procedures, and another is recreational use. These are 3 separate, totally separate, isolated issues. The access issue, we're going to produce the same bill that we produced this year that was defeated in committee, and it was defeated in committee primarily because of the invasive species issue. We want to dissect these issues out and provide them in easily digestible forms because the access does not depend on invasive species, and invasive species doesn't directly affect access. We are wanting to be able to show that the state has had a difficult time in coming forward with procedures for us simply because they say, we are not going to develop procedures for you because you don't have access. We go at it the other direction. We're not going to give you access because we don't have any procedures. And it's a circular argument that has been going on for a while, and we're going to try and stop that with this next legislative session. We're going to be offering training on somewhat a semi-regular basis out at Lake Meredith for those people who like to try to get into seaplanes. We don't have a person who can provide it on a full regular basis, so every other week or every other month we're planning on having someone come out with a seaplane and provide both rides as well as instruction possibly. We're going to be converting Lake Meredith from the private use seaplane base that it is right now to a public use seaplane base. The biggest holdup on that particular issue is the fact that the recreational use problem, and that is that the county is worried about the liability. So right now, in order to be able to use the base, it's open basically to anybody who wants to come in, but they have to sign a covenant not to sue or some other document like that. And we're going to try to find a way to be able to reach agreement with both the county and the lake owners as well as the state to be able to open it up as a public use. And we want to obtain state assistance once we are a public use facility through the AIP. Thank you very much. We hope to see you next year.
Good job.
Good job.
A lot of things have happened with seaplanes in the last year. So thank you, man. Okay, let's move on to the proposed calendar. Dave, you want to talk about that?
Just real briefly, Mr. Chair, we had planned again at our September 14th regular meeting to have another workshop like we did last year, where we met before or after the board meeting to go through some items, make sure we're all on the same page. We had initially planned on doing that in the morning with the board meeting in the afternoon at our regular time. Mr. Chair, I understand we may want to entertain a change to that schedule on that day, so I'll turn that back over to you. And then for our October meeting, once again, staff is going to be putting together our extremely well-received airport and consultant workshop on the 18th, and then our board meeting will be on the 19th as normally it is going to be scheduled. So that's the calendar for the next couple of months, and I'll turn it back over to you for the discussion about the September details.
Yeah, I had a discussion with Dave on that September 14th meeting. It's going to be difficult, not only one board member, for me to make 9:30 in the morning, but I was thinking, and I talked to Dave earlier about the agenda. At this point in time, we don't foresee a lot on that agenda, so we ought to be able to do what we have to do within 45 minutes to an hour. And if it's agreeable with the board, I'd just like to see us maybe start at 12:30 versus 1 on our regular time, and then from the board meeting, we could just jump right into the retreat, if that's okay with everybody else.
Mr. Chairman, it's unlikely that I'll be in town that day at all, so certainly don't plan around me.
Thanks, Joe. All right.
You're talking the 14th.
Yeah, the 14th of September. If you're not, or whoever else may or may not be able to be there, if you have ideas or suggestions or goals or whatever for that, it'd be nice to have them ahead of time, and then we can add them to the...
I'm good with that.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if the noon time works, we could perhaps do a working lunch and go through the workshop, get started while we eat at noon, and that would take maybe 3 hours, have a board meeting for an hour. I'd draft in there the things that we would like to visit with you about, so if you have any suggestions to that, we'd like to talk about that, but perhaps that's a way we could do it. I would prefer to do it in the afternoon, because I have a 4:30 a.m. flight from San Antonio back to Denver, and Southwest can't get me here on time at 8, not either, so that would work better for me too.
The only suggestion I had to the proposed workshop agenda would be, I think this is not only an opportunity to get updates, but I think it's important that the board has an opportunity to talk about goals and objectives for the division. And so I've asked Dave to include that, and if we have some, great. If we don't, well, at least we have the opportunity to provide them. Okay. With that being said, other matters by the public. Anybody else have any comments from the audience? Going once? Going twice? I can't imagine all those aviation people out there don't want to stand up and say something. That's just amazing. Well, thank you guys for being here. Any further comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, to see if there's interest, possibly have a short discussion about it at some future board meeting. Probably not September or October. I likely won't be either of those meetings. But I flew Great Lakes Airlines a couple of weeks ago, and it's been my first experience on an essential air service carrier. And I just it prompted some thoughts and some questions. I understand it's a federal program, but I think the Aeronautical Board still could see if we want to try to influence it. But I struck up a conversation with some of the employees there, and one of them, for instance, and tell me if this is just the person I was talking to and not accurate, but they said, well, we fly even if the plane's completely empty, and even if we don't need to position the plane or anything. And they also said that they're prohibited from contracting cargo. All they can do is schedule passengers because it's essential air service. It just struck me as kind of inefficiencies there. And again, I know it's all federal policy, but I just wanted to wondered if there's interest, because I can just study it myself by talking to people and then come back. But getting a briefing on what the program is, how it works, answer some of those questions at some future agenda. Just my question.
Absolutely, and I don't know if you recall, I'm trying to remember when it was, we had Doug Voss, not Doug Voss, Chuck Howell, who was the COO of Great Lakes, came and gave us an update at one of our board meetings. I don't know that he got into the details of EAS, it was really kind of give us an update on what they were doing here in Colorado. He's just up in Cheyenne. I'm sure I can invite him back to give us a detailed briefing on EAS and the funding levels and the challenges they face, and I'm sure I can get him to do that.
If they would like to, I certainly don't want to request or ask them to kind of come down here and do it, but I would be, I'm just curious, it prompted a lot of questions in my mind.
It'd be good for our reports too, they may need to know some of that info.
And it was fascinating, I hadn't been on a plane in a long time, we could see the cockpit, right, since 9/11.
Did that one have 9 seats or did it have 19?
It had 9.
It had 9, they've taken some out, that was one of the other challenges,
So Mr. Chairman, if I may, we might want to piggyback on that idea, because I think that there's an undercurrent in trying to backfill where the airlines are basically abandoning communities. I think close to 140 in the last 10 years. Our colleague here flew on a Part 380 charter operator that has scheduled service between a couple of airports, and it might be interesting to get an update on Part 380 operators as well. They're just kind of popping up left and right. Relatively unregulated environment, but very convenient.
I'll reach out to Keyline also and see if they're interested in that.
All right, any other comments from members? All right, we'll move on to, we have a special recognition.
We should adjourn first, that would be fantastic.
All right. All right, so when we do adjourn, I don't want the board members to just give me about 10 minutes of your time after the meeting, because I have a little something for you guys, so hang in there. All right, so we have a motion to adjourn.
Go move.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.